So, how do we know if our files might be corrupted? Or what causes that? Let's talk to Wes's bench. I think he might know. Hey, Wes.
Hey, Zach, how are you doing, man?
A buddy of mine has gotten me paranoid about file corruption.
Okay.
So now I'm thinking, maybe I have files that are corrupt, but I have no idea if they're corrupt or not. I mean, what do we do to find out if we have file corruption?
Well, I tell you, that one is that is the $1 million question.
Yeah.
It's probably more than I should go like $1 million
Millions
question.
and millions. Right.
No, it's definitely something you have to worry about.
Yeah.
File corruption happens, and especially when you talk about things like mechanical drives, the old spinning disc, rotating discs. They're pretty much failing the moment you buy them.
Right, they're on the way out when you first get them.
When you first get them. It's kind of like a boat where they say, you know, the moment you pull it off the lot, brand new, just bought it, it reduces price by 20 grand or something. No, but joking aside, your drives have algorithms built into them where they can actually detect that portions of the drive are failing. They can kind of mark it up as bad and just move it around. And a lot of times through the technologies, it's really good and kind of transparent to us. However, there are times, maybe it's malware, right? Malware can cause some of these issues. You could see the fact that you go to access a file and it's not letting you access it, and it might not be a permission.
I have one doing that now.
Yeah, that's usually a sign that something's going wrong with the drive itself.
Oh my goodness.
So one of the things that you have to kind of determine is, hey, is it the operating system that maybe has some issues? You could obviously say malware. Malware could be a thing. I don't like to just chalk everything up to malware until we kind of prove that you know, it isn't some kind of component within the operating system failing or the drive itself. So those are really a couple of the things. If it might be an operating system issue, it really could be you know, that the storage device, let's just say storage mechanism, could be failing, because it's not only going to be something that just happens to the traditional mechanical drives. It could be something like a solid state drive is failing as well.
So the age of the system might come into play here.
Yes, it very well could be.
How old it is and so forth. So how do we fix it, Wes?
Well, one of the biggest things you can do, and I can't stress this enough, all right, is always let your computer perform what's known as a graceful shutdown. Because, like I said, some of the causes could be the fact that a drive sector is failing.
And that's what I wanted to know first is like, what are the causes?
Sure, yeah. So some of the things that can happen is like the drive sector is failing. Another thing, we're here in Florida, you know, and especially where we're having to dodge rainstorms, right, in the middle of our production schedule, right? Well, what has happened to us in this building before when lightning has struck, you know, not too far from the building, right? All of the power in the entire building goes out, okay? And what happens is your operating system in combination with your storage mechanism, doesn't matter what the device is, doesn't matter if it's a removable drive like the USB thumb drive I have plugged into the machine. If you're performing right operations to whatever the storage mechanism, be it HDD or a hard disk drive, solid state drives, maybe it'd be a USB thumb drive, or maybe you're going a little bit legacy and you're in the middle of writing something to DVD. I know that doesn't happen much anymore, but it's the moment that stops, you're right in the middle of that process, all right, and your computer reboots, or your computer goes offline.
So power out could lead to file corruption.
It absolutely could be.
Oh my God.
Now, I will tell you, there are some things, it's not foolproof, but there are plenty of things that people have in place, operating systems have in place. Like for instance, in our Windows machine that we'll take a look at here in a bit, it has what's known as a journaled file system, and that's nothing specific to Windows. Linux has that ext3 and 4, they all have the journaled file system. And just think of that as an area that says, hey, we're going to write to here, this little area, before we actually commit everything to the hard drive itself or to the storage device. So let's write this here. And then once we know it's correct here, then we'll write it over to the drive. And what can happen is when we're writing to that journal, when I say we, it's really the operating system doing it, we're saving a file, and the power goes out, then when the computer reboots, it can inspect that journal, and it can say, okay, we were right in the middle of this write, and it's corrupted, and it flushes it. It doesn't let it happen. So you just don't get that. So you want to make sure, first and foremost, that you always power down your machine by its own means, right? Which is, hey, let me show you here. You know, like when we go into our operating system, and I know you've seen this before, but we're actually going, I'm not going to shut the machine down, but we're actually shutting the machine down. That's what's known as a graceful shutdown, right? And that means that you have told the machine, I want to shut down, versus pulling the power on it, or a lightning strike, that causes your power to go out. Again, and we can't overlook malware too. And we've had an episode where we've talked about scanning for malware and checking for malware. So you definitely want to do something like that.
Yeah, because that's my first thought is my files are corrupted because of malware, because of some malintent by some black hat wearers.
Yeah,
I immediately go, and you're right about the foil hat, by the way.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and again, that's not something that we can't completely rule that out until we do those malware scans. But you ask for some solutions, and there are a couple of solutions that we can use. So for instance, if we get back into our Windows 10 machine, a couple different ways that you can do this. I'm going to go ahead and click on the taskbar down here at the bottom, and there's a little folder icon, and that's File Explorer. And if we open that up, all right, if we kind of scroll down, we'll see on the left-hand side Local Disk C.
Right.
And you can either highlight it from here and then right-click on it, or up here at the top, you can select this PC, and again, we're still on the left-hand side of File Explorer, and notice that Local Disk C kind of shows up here in File Explorer as well. Now, when we're in File Explorer, what we want to do is we want to right-click and we want to choose Properties, the properties of the disk that's in question. You could have multiple disks in here and formatted, so whatever the hard drive is or solid-state drive is that you have in the machine. All right, and notice that we've got a few options, right? And one of the ones that I want you to pay attention to is the Tools tab. All right, this Tools tab has what's known as error checking on it. All right, now, it's not really too obvious from the graphical user interface, but this is actually running a program that runs down in the command line, the command prompt, and it's called chdsk. In the command prompt, I'll show it to you here in a second, it's called chdsk, but it's chdsk, all right? And we could see that in that, the graphical user interface, we've got a button there that says check. And what that's going to do is if I push check here, it's going to ask me, hey, what do you want to do? Now, notice it's telling me right away we haven't found any errors on this drive. I've tried to make this drive corrupt, and it's very difficult for me. Now, of course, the first time I didn't want to corrupt it and I needed the data, I could do that very easy. That's just Murphy's Law. And notice that it says you can keep using the drive during the scan, and if errors are found, you can decide if you want to fix them or not. So we could run this. Another way that you can do this is not from the graphical user environment. Let me close these down here, and in the Start Search field on the taskbar here, we're going to type in 3 letters like we've done in the past. We're going to drop down to what's known as the command prompt. Now you have to be careful with this one because this is going to require an administrative level command prompt. So I'm right-clicking on command prompt here in the top of the Start menu, and I'm choosing this option to run as administrator. And what you're going to notice is that the user account control shows up. That user account control, or UAC, is letting us know, hey, are you sure you want to do this? This was you that did this, right? Making sure that it's not malware. We're going to say yes to this, and this is our administrative level command prompt here. And then this is where we can run this utility. You can see chdsk right there. Now, let me go ahead and just do a space and a !question mark, because if anybody out there doesn't know exactly how they should run this, the great thing is if you're in the command prompt using chdsk or chdsk, I just call it chdsk, and you do a space and then a !question mark and you hit enter, notice it outputs a lot of the options that we have. All right, that is a really easy way, if you will, to kind of find out, what the options are for this utility. And the ones that I want you to really focus in are the /F and then the /R. And Zach, if we look, the /F says fix the errors on disk, right? The other one says, what if it's not the operating system that caused the error, but maybe it's the drive itself? Now, this one really isn't going to work, this next one, too well on solid state, because the way they store information, we don't really have those sectors the way we do on the spinning drives. But notice it says locate bad sectors and recover readable information. But here's the key thing too. Notice it says it implies F. It says, okay, if we're going to locate the bad sectors, we're going to recover the readable information, which means, hey, we found bad or good information in bad sectors. We're going to pull it out of the sector, the physical sector on the drive, and we're going to move it to another location, and we're going to mark that sector as bad. So that the operating system and the drive don't try to store information there again, which it means it's also going to fix the errors too. That's one way that we can do this. Now, if we run this and we kick this off here, and if I do a /F, fix the errors on disk, you're going to notice something, that when I run this, notice that it's telling me, it should tell me, here, there we go. Notice that it says check disk cannot run because the volume is in use by another process. Well, that other process is the fact that the operating system's currently reading and writing to this disk, like for instance in things like your page file, your swap file. So what it's asking me to do you want me to go ahead and schedule this to run the next time the computer reboots? So what do you say we go ahead and do that? We'll say yes here real quick.
Yeah, as we said, it sounds good.
And so what we've done is we've scheduled it. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a shutdown, and I'm going to force this to shut down. So with a /F/R, and then a space /T, and the time is just going to be 1 millisecond. So this is shutdown with the force switch. The R switch says to restart, and the time is right now. And we're going to go ahead, and notice it says you're about to be signed out.
Okay.
Now watch what happens, Zach. When this reboots, you're going to notice something, that rather than going to the, as it's restarting here, rather than going to the traditional Windows start menu, it's going to do something a little bit different. What it's going to do is it's going to say, you know what, I'm not going to load the operating system, because the boot manager is saying, oh, I see a little flag, and that little flag tells me, don't load the operating system. Load check disk into RAM, and then use check disk. You can see right here it says to skip the checking, just press any key to, within 4 seconds. I don't want to do that right now because I want you to actually see this. All right, and notice what it's doing. It says it's in stage 1, it's fixing, and it's going through those different, all the different locations. It's looking at the journal itself that we talked about. It's looking at the file system table, and this is one of those things that it could take a while.
Is this like a safe mode, Wes?
It's kind of like a safe mode. You can think of it this way, is the fact that it loaded that a small, like memory resonant bit of Windows, not the full-blown operating system. Just enough to get this utility running. That's why we see the Windows splash screen and stuff. It's kind of like the pre-execution environment or pre-installation environment, right? And it says just run this utility and try to fix the drive. And then once it finishes, and if it doesn't find those errors, then what it's going to do, here we go, we can see right now it's finished, and what is it doing right now? Now it's rebooting. It said fixing the 100%, and we've reboot. Notice it says scanning there, just we've seen it just quickly. It said scanning and repairing drive at 100%. So it's run, and that's one of the things that you can do. Now, let me go ahead and get logged in here, because there is another utility that you can use to check specific system files if you think the operating system has been corrupted. And when we get logged in here, I'll show you what that is. That's something called the system file checker. All right, a little bit different here, because the system file checker is saying, I don't care about all of the files on the drive. I'm going to use check disk to do everything. But maybe you don't think it's your files that are specifically, like your data files, that are getting corrupted. Maybe you think Windows is kind of having a little bit of a problem, with its own system files, these crucial setup files that the operating system needs to run. If we go ahead and we drop back down to the command prompt, and you do have to be an administrator to do this, so I'm, again, just typing CMD into the start or the little search field here, and I'm going to right-click on command prompt, and I'm going to choose Run as Administrator. So just like we've seen, kind of wash, rinse, repeat here. User account control comes up, and we're going to say yes to this, and then I'll get rid of the start menu here for a bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to 3 letters here, SFC. All right. I don't know if that's Santa Fe Community College. I doubt it. But
my son goes there.
That's right. So SFC is System File Checker. And just like we did with check disk, if you're not exactly sure how to use this, just put us a space and a /. And the option that I use in here is the one called Scan Now. You can do a verify, all right? And if you'll notice, it kind of tells you, right? I know we're smart enough to read this, but look, it says scan the integrity of all protected system files and repair the files with problems when possible. So what it's going to do is there are some protected system files on your system that if it finds that they're bad, it'll pull them out of those protected locations and restore them to their original state. All right, so that's another thing that you can do. You can run the system file checker like this. You can do a verification. If you do a verify only, then it's going to do exactly what it says. It's just going to find out, are there problems? But it's not going to do a repair. So again, use this kind of at your leisure, right? Kind of pick and choose which one you want to do. If you've got and why you might say, well, why would I want to do a verification only? Well, the scan.
Wes, why would I want to do a verification only?
That's right, because scanning is going to find the issues, and it's going to try to repair them. And if you have a 2 terabyte hard drive with a lot of information on it, you might as well just go ahead and run that and go get you a cup of coffee, enjoy
Sleep on it.
Maybe even watch a movie and come back. So you might want to just do the verification first, because that, if it goes through the process and it doesn't find anything, then there's no reason to run have it wait that entire time.
Awesome.
So those are some things that I would say are reactive PC maintenance. Last thing I'd like to mention about this is being proactive with your PC maintenance.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how do we prevent it maybe?
Well, sometimes you can't prevent it.
Right.
All right, so we're going to react after the fact that it happens.
Okay.
Let me show you one of the easiest ways to protect your files. If
There
we
you go.
sit
That's what I
here
want.
and we drop down and we go ahead and we type in our search field this time, file history. All right, when file history comes up, all right, you're going to notice that it gives us an option to restore files with file history, if you will. That's one way that you can find it. Another way you can find is by right-clicking on your Start button and choosing Settings. All right, and then from here what we would do is we go into Update and Security in the Windows Settings interface. And then from the Windows Settings interface, notice that there are a couple of options. Notice that there is Windows Security and then there's Backup. Well, if I choose Backup, all right, notice that there's an option right here, and I had it on previously, but I want to go ahead and turn it off here real quick. And notice Backup using file history. Notice it says back up your files to another drive and restore them if the originals are lost, damaged, or deleted.
That's great.
All right, so when we turn this on, essentially what we do is we get the ability to pick the drive. I'm going to choose more options, and notice that it's pointing to a drive right now, and it says, hey, it can't detect the drive that should be here, all right? What we could do is we can actually choose a drive to connect to this machine and use. In fact, let me go ahead and let me see if we can get into some of the more advanced settings here. I believe they're down back here. Yeah, so, all right, I don't have that drive that I use for file history plugged in. Well, this is kind of a good thing to show you too, is to back up to a different drive. I'm going to stop using that original drive, and it kind of resets this back to the original settings. And if we back out of these settings and we go back into file history, notice the option. It says, hey, I want to use file history, but I've got to add a drive, all right? Now, let me show you what this does. I'm going to go ahead and add drive, and it's not finding any of the drives right now. And you can probably see, Zach, that I have one plugged in already, but it's still not finding it.
Right.
So we have to get that drive ready. We'll come back to file history here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on the Start button, and I'm going to choose Disk Management. And what we're going to do is we're going to find that USB drive that I've got plugged into the USB port on the side of this machine. And you can see that it's right there. It's there, but it's not in a state that we can use it. So what we have to do is format it, and that means apply a file system to it.
Oh, okay.
So what we'll do is we'll select right here, you'll see we right click and we select on that empty unallocated space, choose New Simple Volume. That's going to start our New Simple Volume wizard. Hopefully, it'll launch up. There we go. I guess I wasn't clicking right.
That's right, Mr. Wizard.
That's right. So here's our New Simple Volume wizard. We're going to choose Next, and we're going to use the entirety of this drive for file history. So I'm going to leave the defaults. I'm going to go ahead and mount it as F, and I'm going to call this, for me, I'm going to call it file history, all one word. So I can, and again, this is a naming convention just for me, absolutely. And we're going to choose Next. I'm going to use the NTFS file format, or file system, if you will. And we're going to just wait. It shouldn't take too long. It's going to format it. It's going to apply the NTFS file system to it. And notice that it shows up. That means it's ready to go. We know that it's healthy. And now, when we close down Disk Management, we go ahead and we right-click on our Start button again, choose Settings. And then in the Windows Settings menu down here at the bottom, we're going to click Update and Security. Then we're going to go back to Backup. And notice second in the list here in the middle pane is that backup using file history. We're going to go ahead and choose Add Drive. And now notice that our drive shows up.
It does.
File history. All right, because it's ready. It can see it. It knows it's there. Wow, that was awesome. It doesn't look like it did much, did it?
But it was awesome.
That's right. So let me go ahead and show you. If I show you more options here, you can, this is what I wanted you to see earlier. You can see that it's saving all of these folders.
Yes.
All right. So let's test this out real quick, all right? What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to minimize this and show you how this works, all right? We'll see it in action. How about that, right? And it's backing up currently my documents folder, all right? And if I get in here to documents, one of the things I can do is I can right-click on this, and we're going to choose New, and I'm going to say this is Zach's file. All right, there we go. So we got Zach's file.
Good.
All right.
At least I own something.
That's right. So we're going to go back in, and what we're going to do is we are going to back up this file with file history. So I'm going to choose Backup Now. All right, and it's going to back up the information. It's calculating how much it takes, how much of the space it's going to require to back up.
Right.
Now, notice it tells me that it's backed up, right? So we've got 132 megabytes right there that have been backed up. All right, you ready for it?
I'm ready.
I'm going to help you out with your paranoia there.
Oh, good.
All
Please
right,
do.
very good. So look here, watch what happens. We're going to go ahead and there is your file. It is gone. Oh, what are we going to do? And look here, I'm going to actually delete it from the recycle bin. Gone. That's what you were paranoid about, right? Or you could say file corruption, right?
File corruption, that was the...
That's as corrupt as it gets.
I'm pretty paranoid now, right now.
All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to go back, and what we're going to do is we're going to open up file history one more time.
Yeah.
We're going to choose settings. All right, and we're going to go back to update and security. We're going to go to the backup location. All right, and notice we have backup using file history.
Right.
More options. All right, and when we go down to the bottom, notice it tells us underneath the advanced settings, restore files from current backup.
Yes.
We're going to click on that. All right, and that link will bring us to the backup and restore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the folder where those files were, and I'm just going to choose this little restore button, this circle. Let's push it. All right, we see a copy happening. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we're safe. So let's go back to documents, and let's double click on documents, and look there, Zach. Your file is back.
You
the data
saved me.
drive is back, and we are good. So in totality, you can't always stop file corruption, and even in some of the tools that you use, it might not bring that data back. So the best thing you can do is back that information up to an external source, and if something happens to it, you can always restore to an earlier point in time.
Back up the backup.
That's right.
Wes, thank you, because now I can take my hat off.
Okay, we can get you a regular ball cap now.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.